Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kayla Knu. I'm an adult dark fantasy author, and today we are celebrating the launch of my debut novel, The Reckoning. And this is actually the virtual book tour day 3, I believe. And yeah, so for today, I'm going to be doing a live reading, and it's going to be of chapter 1 of The Reckoning. I have it right here with me. I have my paperback proof, so it's not actually the final copy. It does not have like the final proofread done. So if I read anything and it seems weird, which it probably won't, because I feel like if there was a mistake, I would fix it verbally. But you know, I'm going to be reading from this. I should probably should grab a bookmark. I should have grabbed a bookmark. But I'm going to be reading chapter 1 in a few minutes. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of time to jump in because I did just make my post on social media about this. And to start off, we'll do some announcements. So if you guys don't already know, The Reckoning is an adult dark fantasy novel with a heavy LGBTQ plus romance and representation throughout. And it's going to release on April 14th, 2021, which is also my 30th birthday. And as you guessed it, yes, I will be doing a stream on my birthday to celebrate with everyone. In that regard, I do have a playlist linked below that has all of my virtual book tour dates in the playlist. So if you missed my last two, where I kind of talk more about the magic systems, I talk about the characters, I show the magic symbols, I show the character arts, I answer questions. If you guys just want more general information about The Reckoning, check those out. They are linked in the playlist below, as well as all of the future lives, which I believe for the next 7 days, I will be here every day reading a chapter from this book. So I am actually going to read the first 7 chapters throughout this book tour launch. So if you want to hear a little bit about what's in the book before purchasing, that is happening. You can get that sneak peek because I'm going to be reading it. But yeah, so right now, ebooks are up for pre-order. So if you like your ebooks, you can actually pick it up today. You can pick it up now. It's linked below. If you pick it up today, you can read along with me as I read the rest of the chapters. So that's cool. But I am obviously going to be having paperback and hardback versions of the book. I was not able to get the hardback pre-order figured out and set up quick enough because I had some issues come up with design and files, and stuff happens, you know? So this is my first book. Things are going to happen. Things are going to come up. But there is going to be a hardback version available, hopefully on the 14th. It has been submitted. It's been approved. I believe it will show up to be able to purchase your hardback on the 14th. But, you know, sometimes there's computer problems. So we'll see. But yeah, so that is happening. And I'm excited. I am going to be getting a hardback proof soon. And I cannot wait to unbox that and show that off to you guys. But yeah, so it is a few minutes after. I don't know if I'm going to read this with a weird voice. I feel like my voice is probably just weird in general. But we'll see. Sometimes I get really animated when reading. And it might be hard to be really serious about this because I feel like sometimes I get really amused by my own characters. So if I just start laughing, I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, so before I start reading this, content warning. Content warnings. Hold on. Let me pull them up. One of my friends on Instagram had great content warnings, one of my ARC readers. Thank you, G, if you're watching this, for your content warning inspiration. So, content warning includes beatings, blood and gore, death, loss of a loved one, murder, physical violence, psychological abuse, rape with explicit description, sex, sexual violence, trauma, and victim blaming. So yeah, that is the content warning. I'm not really sure what else to throw out there. I think, well, we won't be reading that part, so I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, so those are kind of the content warnings. I feel like I should like throw them in the chat. Like, I think I should throw these in the chat. Can I like, I wonder if I can like copy them. Like if I can just make it a permanent thing. Beatings, blood and gore, murder. Maybe I'll just put just the ones that are explicable for these first. Oh, trauma was on there. Did I say trauma for the content warning? Trauma is on there. Victim blaming. All right, I put most of the content warnings in the chat. I don't know if I can pin it. I can. All right, perfect. So that way when people come in, they can see the content warnings. All right, I'm excited about this and also like equally nervous because like I am never one to like read things out loud. So this is gonna be like really weird. But yeah, let me get it on there. Let me get it going. This way, when people come in, they'll know what we are doing. All right, The Reckoning Book Tour Day 3, reading Chapter 1. Perfect. I got my book. I got a cat in the chair beside me. If you guys heard him meow earlier, I got my content warnings all pinned so that anyone who joins later while I'm reading this can see it. It's time, guys. It is time. And I am going to actually go ahead and read the book description in case you guys don't already know what the book's about since we are starting Chapter 1. I'm not going to read this every week, but today, before we roll into this so that you have an idea and a reason to stick around. The magical lands of Altera have been stricken with famine since the destruction of light magic. Rebellion threatens to rise, but the Reckoning, an age-old tradition where potential warriors compete in deadly challenges, could provide distraction. To be called is an honor, but glory is reserved for the champion. So when Malachi Darkblood, a prince with demonic heritage, is called, he is expected to win. But his fate is intertwined with that of a girl, and he finds more than his reputation is at stake. Harrison Darkborn, a highborn Asud, is more than honored to be called. His loyalty to the king knows no bounds, but when his wedding to the princess is postponed, he soon discovers that there are challenges far greater than the Reckoning. Tyler Skye, a human farmer, faith in love and kindness, even as her family's herd thins. Though her hope is strong, her life is turned upside down when she is called. Without any magic of her own, her odds of survival are low, but her kindness may prove to be her savior. Facing the unknown challenges ahead of them, one thing holds true: their fates are intertwined. And if you guys haven't guessed already, The Reckoning is the first book in the Intertwined series. The entire series is about their fates being intertwined. So, if that doesn't spoil anything, I hope. Let's do this. Let's get started. Right on into Chapter 1. I'm going to read straight from the book. And I'm going to show you guys. Look how beautiful it is on the inside. My magic symbols, if you ever missed them, here they are. And this first chapter is going to be from Kai's perspective. A woman's scream wrenched my attention from the deer carcass. She stared wide-eyed as I drained the beast of its blood. Its warmth and metallic taste called to my deepest parts, and I couldn't stop. A look of horror was on her face, but my thoughts were only of blood. Hers teased me as it pulsed in her veins. She ran into tree cover, but branches crunching underfoot made her easy to follow. I stalked her in silence as she flailed through the brush. Eventually, she came to a stop and looked back. I was concealed in the trees above, and she let out a sigh of relief. The creaking branch betrayed me as I dropped to the ground, but by then it was too late. I pinned her under the weight of my body. My hand muffled her scream as my eyes bore into her. The familiar red glow filled my vision. She fell under my spell, and her resistance dissolved. I sank my teeth into her without pause, and a wave of energy ran through me as I tasted her. I tore my teeth from her flesh when a sound echoed in the distance. Scanning the trees, I saw no movement. Her hot, arterial blood sprayed out and covered my face, drawing my attention back to her. The blood was impossible to ignore. A sound grabbed my attention again, pulling me from the bloodied scene. Knock, knock, Harrison threw open my bedroom doors. Even in my sleepy days, I recognized his voice. We'd been friends since infancy. I retreated under my black fur covers and pretended he was a dream, more like a nightmare. Don't tell me your sorry rump is still in bed, Harrison teased. He tugged on my blanket, and I peered over the covers. His mess of brown hair was tucked behind one of his long, pointed ears, and a stupid smile was spread across his face. I sat up in my bed. What the bloody hell are you so happy about? The tightness in my underwear was unexpected, and my blanket did nothing to conceal it. Guess I'm not the only one excited this morning. Harrison's green eyes met mine, and heat rose in my cheeks. I threw my pillow at his face. He took a step back from the force of the impact and laughed. Get out. I stood from my bed with my blanket held up to cover my erection. Okay. Just wanted to let you know that breakfast will be ready soon. Harrison's smile never faded as he left. I slammed the double doors behind him inside. My throbbing cock demanded attention. For weeks, I'd been plagued by dreams of blood that caused me to wake up at full mast. It had become a problem. The dream started right after I manifested a need for blood, a demonic trait that was hard to hide and impossible to ignore. As a Deirdre, I expected my body to continue to transform as my dark magic grew, but the bloodlust was a surprise. I couldn't find any books that mentioned it, and no one else in my family exhibited the trait. I clenched my fists, refusing to yield to my perversion. Blood should not cause arousal, yet I couldn't stop my own thoughts. I recalled the deer I'd killed the night before. Its bright red blood had speckled my gray skin. I remembered the metallic taste of its blood and how it warmed me on the inside, filling me with power. My cock ached and my resistance disappeared. It filled me with shame, but I had to relieve myself. And then there's a scene break. I stood tall as I walked through the palace in my favorite black robe. It was trimmed in silver and had the holy symbol embroidered on the back. Most days I had to wear uncomfortable black suits handpicked by my father, but on the holy day I got a break from my busy schedule. It came but once a week, and I always looked forward to the day of comfort and relaxation. The dark walls of the palace were lined with portraits, statues, and overly ornate sculptures, all cast with silver detailing to showcase the wealth of the Dark Nation. Servants bowed and greeted me as I passed by on my way to the kitchen. I nodded respectfully but kept my distance from them as much as possible. It was likely they were all spies for my father, or worse. A young maid greeted me with a bow and a wide smile. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness." She looked me over with big brown eyes. Her heart rate quickened as her gaze trailed from my feet all the way up to my horns. Her pale face flushed, making her attraction to me undeniable. It sickened my stomach. I briskly moved past her without a reply, hoping she wouldn't try to speak to me again. Sexual attraction eluded me. It never made sense. People's sudden sexual desires based entirely off another person's appearance. I wished women wouldn't look at me in such a way. It made me feel unclean, as though they had defiled me with just their eyes. Harrison's laughter echoed down the hall. He always managed to radiate a positivity that uplifted me. Although I would never admit it, I wished I could talk to him about my bloodlust. He'd be able to find a bright side, but I couldn't. My growing powers had to be kept secret from him, from everyone, for fear of my father finding out. The sweet aroma of syrup greeted me as I entered the kitchen. Pots and pans hung from the dark stone walls with wooden counters beneath them. Usually there'd be a dozen chefs fast at work making food for the entire palace, but it was the holy day, so the kitchen was mostly empty. Harrison leaned against the only workstation in use while sampling pastries. A bounty of them were laid out upon the counter. His black robe was already dusted in powder from the sugary treats. He was complimenting the head chef in a sudden when I walked up. Harrison always jumped at the chance to speak his native tongue with fellow Assuds. Our head chef was a middle-aged Assud. Like most Assuds, he had dark olive skin and pointed ears. His long black hair was pulled back into a tight and perfect bun. No matter what time of day it was, his hair was always slicked back under his hat. Never had a single hair been found in any of the many dishes he prepared for the palace. "I see His Royal Highness has finally privileged us with his presence," said a familiar voice from the pantry. "Daniel?" My old friend stepped out of the pantry with a jar of honey in hand. "When the bloody hell did you get back?" He looked different, bigger. It wasn't unusual for Tlox to be tall and wide, but Daniel had definitely become more muscular in his time away. Training with the Dark Nation Army had done him well. "Just this morning," Harrison spoke with a mouthful of pastry. I had to step back to avoid the puff of powder that expelled from his lips. I glared at Harrison. "Is that why you burst into my room unannounced?" "Oh dear, did my presence cause a disturbance?" Daniel smirked as he placed the honey on the counter. The head chef placed a platter full of pancakes before us. Breakfast is served. Plates and silverware were stacked in a pile next to it so we could serve ourselves buffet style. Another benefit of the holy day. "Chef, you know I don't. And for your highness," he said before I could finish my complaint. A plate piled high with eggs, bacon, and sausage was placed before me. "I know you don't like pancakes, but the boys insisted. Nevertheless, I of course saw to your preferred breakfast. Enjoy." "Thanks," I replied. Chef returned to his morning routine. Harrison and Daniel insisted that we eat outside. It was late in the fall season, but the morning sun was bright. Too bright. I hated how it glared down on me harder in the cold months than it did in the warm ones. Cold and darkness went hand in hand, yet the sun was defiant. We sat under the dark oak pergola near the poolside. The solid stone table at its center had the most comfortable outdoor chairs around it. They were made of the same hard wood as the pergola, but they were topped with soft black cushions. I had to squint to bear the morning light and ease the burning in my eyes. Harrison wasted no time drowning his pancakes in syrup and honey as soon as he was seated. He was a sloppy eater and would be a disgustingly sticky mess in no time. Daniel had much better table manners, even though Tlox were usually the messy ones. He was a freak of nature. He was tall, muscular, and green like most Tlox, yet Daniel had no tusks. He also had slightly pointed ears, whereas all other Tlox had rounded ones. I thought he looked more like a large green Assud than a Tlox. "Are you going to tell us about your summer or what?" Harrison mumbled through a mouthful of pancakes. Syrup oozed from the crack between his lips. Daniel smirked. "I guess I have a story or two that I could share." "We do enjoy the free entertainment," I replied. It may have sounded sarcastic, but I enjoyed Daniel's theatrics. His stories let me experience the world through his eyes, even though I was confined to the palace grounds. They were a welcomed escape from my prison. "Well, it all began many a month ago, way back at the break of spring," Daniel said dramatically. "The sun was shining, the flowers were blooming, and the animals were mating. Violently and forcefully mating." Daniel made inappropriate gestures as he continued, and I couldn't help but smile. Harrison, on the other hand, choked on his pancake. "As soon as our ships landed on Killshore Island, I tore into the new recruits without mercy. I made them run the perimeter of the island until bodies started to drop. Of course, like any good leader, I ran with them." "Is that why you look so good? A summer of running?" Harrison asked. He looked at Daniel with wide eyes. "You like the way I look?" Daniel said as he smiled at Harrison. Harrison's gaze quickly turned back to his pancakes, but I could see the flush in his cheeks. Daniel had always had a knack for teasing him. I had to hold back my laugh so that Harrison wouldn't get mad. I'm sure he did a lot more than just running to get that kind of muscle definition, I said. Indeed, Daniel grinned. We started and ended our days with a 10-mile run around the island. During the day, I put the recruits through obstacle courses, weight training, hand-to-hand combat training, and magical combat training. Only a handful of recruits actually made it through the day still standing, he laughed. Sounds brutal, Harrison said. He went back to stuffing his face. That was merely the beginning. After the first month, the recruits were divided into squads based on performance. The top performing recruits became squad leaders, and surprisingly enough, there was a woman among them. A Talak, I asked. The Talaks were a warrior race that prided themselves on strength. Even the women among the tribes were fierce and muscular. Naturally, but around midsummer, when the days were the hottest, our female squad leader forgot her place. We were in the midst of a war game between the squads when she questioned my command. No, Harrison said, his mouth dropped open. I was just as shocked as he was. A soldier questioning a commanding officer was bad news. Add to that the fact that Daniel was a general and the son of the field marshal, the heat must have made her delirious. What did you do? I asked. Breakfast forgotten. I was on the edge of my seat. Daniel had never told a story where someone had questioned him before. My heart raced. I had no idea how he'd react to a slight like that. I stared her in the eye and watched the color leave her face. As soon as she finished her words, she realized what she had done. With others around, her insubordination could not go unpunished. I backhanded her helmet off her head and grabbed her by the hair. As I dragged her into the middle of the battlefield, she spoke only 3 words to me, "Please have mercy." With her hair in hand, I announced her crime loud enough for everyone to hear and called upon the squad leaders to witness her punishment. You didn't kill her, did you? Harrison asked. He was on the edge of his seat. The blood in my veins began to tingle as dark magic surged within. I tried to fight it, but my demonic nature had been triggered by the promise of violence. Of course not. She was a skilled soldier. Killing her would be a waste of talent. Instead, I had to teach her a lesson. She gave no resistance when I stripped her out of her uniform and threw her over a barrier. The squad leaders stood in formation around us as I held her in place. She tried to relax, but she felt tight when I forced myself inside her. She must have been a virgin. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't scream out. I was as rough with her as I could be without causing permanent damage. All her holes were filled with cum by the time That's enough, Daniel. My chair fell over when I stood. I had to choke back the contents of my stomach. Talaks had violent tendencies, but Daniel always took it too far. I swore he made up for his attractive appearance by being unnervingly brutal. But we were just getting to the good stuff, Daniel replied. He smiled wickedly. Harrison's eyes were wide and his mouth hung open. I swore I could see the wheels turning in his head. We don't need all the bloody details. We get it. Someone's a bit sensitive today, Daniel mocked. My blood ran cold. You did take it a bit far, Harrison replied. You two just need to get laid already, Daniel said, leaning back in his chair. His words cut through me. Dark magic boiled in my blood as I was consumed by rage. My teeth ached and my vision turned red as the change took over. Harrison began to look my way and I turned. I couldn't let them see my face, not like this. I'm going to the shrine, I spoke in a cold voice as I walked away from the table. My dark magic had nearly overwhelmed me. The frenzy of rage was mixed with a burning desire for violence. I needed to keep it under control and stay calm. Otherwise, my new demonic abilities wouldn't remain a secret for long. End chapter 1. Yep. So, yeah, that was chapter 1. That was Kai's perspective. It's so weird to read something that I've written so long ago, but also Kai is one of my most favorite perspectives and most relatable characters. So I could feel his rage. Yes. Anyway. So yeah, that was chapter 1. I actually read that faster, I guess, than I expected. I hope I didn't read too fast. If you guys think I need to read slower or if I'm not pronouncing things well enough or whatever, drop it in the comments. That way I can like adjust for the rest of the chapters. And chapter 2 is from Harrison's perspective. And I will be reading that tomorrow at, let's see, I don't want to tell you the wrong time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be reading chapter 2 tomorrow. It's Harrison's perspective. Guys, I am just so excited. Like, this is like the final countdown to like release date. Like, I have less than a week. What is like 7 days or something? I don't know. I'm doing 7 chapters, but I think 2 of them are actually after the release. So like, is this a 5-day countdown? I don't know. Guys, it's here, it's coming, The Reckoning. It's my proof copy. If you guys haven't seen this gorgeous book. And my magic symbols. This way. I love my magic symbols so much. Also, if you guys haven't seen it, you see this awesome logo I got going down here? That's my publishing company, guys. Isn't it badass? Like, look at that. Look at it. Sometimes I have great ideas. Only sometimes, though. It's called Queer SF Publishing because we publish queer science fiction and fantasy books, if you guys didn't catch that. There is a lot of LGBTQ representation in here, and I'm really excited about how well it has come across based off of like my ARC reviewers' reviews. I'm like, yes. I guess to that extent, if you guys didn't know, I am on the LGBTQ plus spectrum, which I don't think I ever really talk about, but that is why it's so prevalent in here, because like I am a very queer person. So like I think it shows. I think it does show. But yeah, and I don't know. I think it's really important to have that representation because like, you know, growing up, the things that I was subjected to, like there really wasn't any representation. And then it's like when you don't have something out there that's representing like who you are and how you feel, and it makes you like feel isolated and lonely and alone because all you're seeing is the straight media saying that this is how you're supposed to be, and then you're like, but that's not how I am. So like, what does that mean for me? Like, you know. But yeah, I'm so excited. I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, it's here, it's coming, and like right now I am in the middle of rewriting book 2, so like this is my debut novel, but more are coming. There's gonna be, what is it, 7? Are there 7 books in the series? I don't know. 3, 4, 7. Yeah, I think there's 7. I think I have 7 books planned for this series. That's not to say that it couldn't grow, but currently there will be 7 books in this series, guys. So get excited, get hyped. I can't wait. I'm so excited. It's a Friday. My book's coming out. My birthday's coming up. I'm about to be 30, guys. Like, I can't even. I hope you liked the chapter, by the way. I guess I didn't see that. I might have to practice my words because, like, it's a lot easier to write profanity and inappropriate things than it is to, like, say them out loud, I feel like. Because I was just, like, reading this, and I was like, oh, yep, we're saying that out loud. So 18 plus, please, for people watching this video. I did put the content warnings out there for y'all to see. I might have to add them to my video description at some point, but you know, that's it. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're eager to read what's next or listen to me read what's next, because it's coming at you tomorrow. And yeah, everything's linked below. Guys, if you want to know what's happening, when it's happening with my books, subscribe to my newsletter, so that you don't miss anything. My newsletter people get all the information first. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for sticking around and listening to me read my chapter. I hope it wasn't too weird. But yeah, and I will see you guys tomorrow.